Welcome to another edition of Enough to Keep Going. This is episode number 44. Should have been Tuesday, May 8th. We had some scheduling conflicts, so we're coming to you tonight, Saturday, May 12th. So this is our discussion show, Grown Ups Who Game, and I think we have an interesting topic and the right people to kind of chew on it. I'm joined by Prime. How are you?
I'm well. Glad to see you again so soon.
Yeah, we were just on Thursday night for the E2KG and 30 news show. And I'm also joined by Gasicles, but I know he's doing the social media stuff right now. So we'll let him wrap that up before we ping how he's been doing. So tonight's topic, we're going to kind of talk about how we approach games. The impetus for this was God of War. And we had a little bit of discussion in our chat client about, some of us hadn't started and didn't want spoilers. Others of us just, it wasn't clicking. And for some of us, we were just trying to really bask in the game. So we're going to talk about how we consume games tonight. And I'll get into that in a little bit more. But first, as we always do on our discussion episode, we're not going to really talk about them, but we'd like to share what we've been playing. So Prime, you have one old standby and then a couple of new classics, I would say.
Yeah.
Very new.
Yeah. So I've been playing PUBG, of course, as usual. Only a little bit, though. I haven't been able to play it too much this past week. And then I'm playing Mario Odyssey. Still going through that. I just passed the. I think I mentioned this in the chat when during the week. I passed the festival in New Donk City, which I thought was really cool. I don't want to spoil it for anybody if they haven't played it yet. So, but it's really cool, really kind of retro, nostalgia feel. So that was cool. And then Lego Worlds, I've been hitting pretty hard again this past week. So been enjoying that. Just kind of going through the story part of that. So it's been fun.
Glasscleese, you all set? What have you been playing?
Yeah, so I have been playing a little bit of The Last of Us remastered. So planning on doing some game captures of that this weekend. And then I have been, and of course, with our equipment problems that I had, I forgot to grab it so I could show it on the camera. But I've been testing and had under review a new gaming mini keyboard. So I've been playing Borderlands. I played some other things to test it with earlier, so like Left 4 Dead and Half-Life 2. But this weekend, just to wrap up my review, I've been playing a little Borderlands on the PC.
All right, and I have nearing the end of Horizon Zero Dawn, but I've also kind of played a little bit of Monster Hunter World with my son. He kind of took the lead on that, but I got to experience the game somewhat. And that was on the PS4. And the other game that I started recently and only got a little bit into, but an oldie, kind of, The Witcher Enhanced Edition for PC. So I've been tinkering around with that.
That's the first game?
Yeah, that's the very, very first one because I'm too OCD not to start with the first one.
Very good.
I have all three in my Steam library. But I have also been doing a little testing. I built my rig back in January. No, I built it on Super Bowl Sunday. I remember because I was trying to hurry up and finish before the game started. And graphics card prices were too high, so I had an old graphics card in there. But some of the prices have just started to come back to like MSRP. So I actually finally got the new graphics card to go with my new computer, and I put my GTX 1080 in there. So I was excited about that. Beyond that, though, I want to talk about how we play games. So when we were kind of brainstorming this, we were thinking about different ways we play. We can immerse ourselves in the gameplay world and just try to lose ourselves in a game, and we don't really necessarily have to pursue, you know, pursue the main story. We just want to kind of complete the experience. So, letting ourselves meander along side quests, just enjoying it. Some of us here, I know, do just kind of a round robin rotation amidst a few titles. So they'll have 3, 4, 5 games that they're bouncing around in, but it feels like they're generally moving along. And some of us are dedicated to a community. I know that Agascles and DB are big into Destiny 2, for example. And then, and this one I put in specifically for Agascles, voraciously sampling new and newly discovered titles. So I think I'll go around the horn, and I would just we'll start off by just saying, what's your approach to gaming and why? So you want to start us off, Prime?
Yes. So lately, excuse me, the last few years, what I usually like to do, excuse me, is I'll pick one game, and it used to be usually a shooter. So it was like, for the longest time, it was Call of Duty, and I'd just play that, mostly the the multiplayer, and kind of have that as my go-to game. And obviously, you probably, if you've listened for the last few years, you know that I was a big Call of Duty guy, and still am, more or less. I didn't buy this year's, but for the most part, I was doing that. This year, it's been, or in this last year and a half or so, it's been PUBG that I've kind of stuck with. I'm always playing that, and then I'll pick another game. Usually, kind of go through like the single player of that game. So right now, it's probably like Mario Odyssey. I'd probably pick that one for right now. But that, well, I'll just leave it at that for now, and then I'll expand on that a little bit later. But yeah, it kind of evolved, I guess, from just long ago when I've been playing, because usually I was just like hitting single player games all the time, when I was younger and I had more time to play games. But then as I got older, I got a job and all that, and dating more, and then I got married, had kids, obviously game time shrunk down. So I think that's where I kind of like evolved into just playing multiplayer games, because for the most part, just jumping in, quick matches, and then I'm able to get out, and I'm done. So yeah, I think pretty much for now, that's how I've been playing most of my gaming experience and gaming time.
I guess, please. What about you?
Yeah, so I guess my thing is I have a couple things these days in particular that are kind of constraints that somewhat drive my gaming. One of those is content creation. So with my streaming channel or gaming content channel, Rounding Off Infinity, I used to just kind of post anything there, but I don't know, tail end of last year, I kind of took a look at some of my viewer metrics, and now that influenced a little bit what I play in terms of when I'm live streaming or doing game captures. Try and now more so focus on the type of content that people seem to consume more. Although that's very risky, because I cannot understand reasons why people consume certain things. Like the Air Missions Hind game that I had as my game assignment a couple months ago that Swiss, you mentioned, like, didn't really capture your attention. For some reason, people are consuming that video like more than others. And then sometimes, I play flight sims and people consume those more greatly, and sometimes they don't. So it's kind of a risky horse to chase. But there's that, and then sometimes, for our channel or my channel, or just for the podcast, I specifically drive myself to play a chunk of something to prepare for a conversation that we're going to have. So there's that, but kind of in the background, largely, it's also, I have a few different systems to play on, and one of the things that causes me a bit of anxiety is when I have systems that I know I haven't touched or played for weeks or months. In fact, in December last year, I did a mass load shed of a lot of systems that were sitting around here, where I just looked at my metrics of how much I was getting around and playing, and I was like, okay, based on how much I'm playing, and the sheer number of hours of gameplay that I get in per month, clearly I can't be on like this many platforms. So I got rid of a few of those. But But so, getting around to each hardware platform and then prepping for podcasts, posting content that's important to our channel or my own is kind of one of the things that drives exactly what I play.
For me, it's just mostly, as Prime said, I have limited time. So I play what really captures my attention. So for lately, if you've been listening to podcasts recently, it's been Horizon Zero Dawn. So I might tinker with a couple of other games amidst of that. But if a game I enjoy enough to wanna beat it, I generally devote all my attention to it because I have limited available free capacity for gaming as it is. So the other games that pepper it are usually due to outside influences. For example, as Agascles mentioned, the plays segments that we do. That's why I played Celeste and I enjoyed it. It's also why I played the original God of War in this time. And then with my kids picking up games, that's how I sprinkle in a little Kirby and Monster Hunter World now. But what struck me as I listened to all three of us, I know we all kind of are on varying degrees of the spectrum of how often we switch games, but how much external factors are what drives our play. None of us were like, I'm a fan of RPGs, so I want to play the coolest RPG out there. It's like, with Gascles, he has E2KG in the back of his mind. It seems with his picks and his rotation, peppered with a healthy dose of appreciation for the art of racing and whatnot. And with me and Prime, it seems like time is of the essence. So is that something that you guys regret? Like, if you hear yourself say that, that's like, wow, I'm not driving my choices as much as I desire to. It's kind of like you're left with the scraps almost in a way. Any of you disappointed in that?
I don't think I'm disappointed. I think I used to be up until this past year, because there's just so much that I had missed playing, even stuff that I have owned and own right now, and even my obviously we all have back catalogs, and probably more so some than others because of Steam and all that. But yeah, I mean, at one point I was kind of like, oh man, I gotta kind of like Gascles too. Like I have all these other systems that I can play, and sometimes I just didn't play them at all. But I've kind of got over that now. It's just like, what, I have the time that I have, so I can't, I can't worry about, that I haven't played or I haven't finished like Crackdown 2 from, the 360 or even, some of the earlier games on the Xbox One. And even with the Switch, like within like 3 months, I had a back catalog already. So I was like, what, I'm just done. I'm just gonna play, like I said at the beginning of the year, I'm just gonna play, what I want to play at the time that I'm playing it. So it's not gonna bother me anymore.
How about you?
Yeah, and I'm kind of there with Prime, just as far as like, at a certain point, you have to let some of that stuff go a little bit. One of the things I kind of struggled with a little bit this year is, as our network started doing more stuff and we started adding more people and other shows and special episodes, is I did get a little bit of content creators anxiety, right? Which is, not as extreme as some other people, but there's this discussion out in the internet about people who actually monetize their videos, right? They go through a thing where if they're not posting video content every day, right, then they start getting really anxious about it and anxious about losing viewers. And I experienced that a little. Our numbers are smaller, but I still I still try and play hard between the tackles, right? So in the morning and in the evening, which is my time that I can get on and post stuff, that's where I start getting like really tense if I don't get something done. And back when I was writing for the GWW, that would really wrap me around the axle if I was trying to get like a comic book review posted in the morning so that it was available during the day. I would really get stressed out, if something took me longer to get that posted. But I don't want to. I guess for me, I mean, I say that those things influence what I play, but they don't necessarily always control what I play entirely. You know, like you mentioned, right? I mean, part of it is what's in my library, and there just happens to be a ton of racing games and flight sims in my library, so those things come up. And I still, to this day, again, I try and experiment a little because I'm trying to figure a few things out, but I've largely landed on like the only JRPGs that I'm going to find that I might really like probably are going to be on the 3DS or the Switch, where there's a little more wiggle room on what types of games are available for me to buy. So I don't mind allocating some percentage of that library to that type of content. But you know, I'm probably pretty much done buying JRPGs on the PlayStation 4 because there's tons of other games that I want to play on the PlayStation 4. So those things influence me, but I don't necessarily feel like they keep me from playing things that I want to play and would normally play. In fact, they probably drive me to stick with the game longer and be more consistent. Because generally, I don't, you know, in a gaming block, I generally won't allocate more than, I don't know, 2 to 6 hours maybe to any one game before I drop it and move on to the next thing in a rotation. Whereas, you know, some of those content things may cause me to stick with the game for slightly longer.
Now I know though, how much Destiny 2 content do you post? I know that's a game that you keep coming back to. Is the content creation what kind of brings you back to that game? Or I get the sense from having spoken to you that you're just a fan of the game. When does that trump, you know, your normal structure? And when do you just kind of go back to that what's a good way to describe it for Mother's Day? The home cooked meal games.
right. So that's coming up less. So there was a time when so content creation never really drove that. It was just like, what was it, Prime, like 2 years ago, 2016 maybe. Like after the game had been out for 2 years, like, and all the DLC suddenly became free. I was like, you know, things for me socially had changed just in terms of who I was gaming with, because the thing that turned me off to OG Destiny was that I was trying to play with my friends, but my friends were dumping a huge amount of time into it, and everybody leveled up to level 40, and I was like at level like 5. So yeah. I was like, I don't have time for that, you know. But then I came back to it 2 years later. It was more of a single player experience, and I got a little completionist about it, which is a rare thing. And I just decided I was just going to kind of pile through it. When I go back to it now, so I guess 1/4 variable in the mix is on weekends when I generally have, I don't necessarily know that I have longer blocks of time to play, but I can at least dedicate some time blocks to play. This year I am specifically trying to mix in, I guess what I think of as community gaming. And focusing on getting out and maybe playing some more multiplayer and co-op. So a lot of that's come up just because DB and I and his uncle have partied up to play some Destiny 2 over the last few weekends, and so there's that. And I guess the other thing in the mix these days that's getting some dedicated time is VR as well. So probably tonight. I'm struggling a little bit now because I hooked up my recording rig to do some game captures and let's plays of revisiting The Last of Us Remastered. But I think what I actually want to do is hook up my VR rig and play some more Project Cars. So there are kind of some thematic themes, I guess, that I stick with, and Destiny 2. Destiny 2, I come back frequently just because I have it on a few different platforms, and it's part of like my community gaming mix.
So Prime, you did mention that kind of time helps drive it. So I know you play a lot of PUBG, and the appeal you mentioned was that you can jump in, you can play around, you can come close to winning your chicken dinner, and then you can jump out, right? So
it's always close. I never, rarely do I get it.
So I don't think that actually impacts the game experience because it's designed around that, you know, uh, a time quantum, you know, you have the start, you have the end game, the mid game, you have the end game. Um, so with the other games you have, how much does your consumption style affect the experience? Do you ever find that like you're like, man, if I just could really sit down and play Mario Odyssey, you know, for a few hours on end, would that make Mario Odyssey better, or do you feel like I I I jump in and I play it and then I don't look at it for a week and I come back and I have to remember what I was doing and it degrades the experience a little bit. It doesn't feel cohesive. Do you ever feel like that, or is that irrelevant to you?
No, yeah, I don't really feel that way. It's almost kind of the opposite, where I kind of look forward to the kind of the like during the week. It's like, all right, I'm working, and maybe I could play, PUBG or some other, maybe Rocket League. Rocket League is another one that I play a lot of. Yeah, I can jump into those, but then I know on the weekend I do have a little bit more time, kind of like a guest place, that I can play maybe a single player experience. So I kind of look forward to that, and and usually when I'm playing the single player game, I'll play it for like probably a few weeks, maybe even a couple months. So I'm always on that one game, and I don't try to jump around too much as far as the single player stuff goes. Just because, like you said, it does get kind of cumbersome. If I have to keep, if I'm playing Galaxy, I'm sorry, Mario Odyssey one week, and then the next week, maybe like 2 weeks later, I'm playing um, like Breath of the Wild or something like that. And then I do have to remember, everything. And if I'm switching back and forth like that, yeah, it does get kind of messy, just because it's like, oh, you know what, I'm trying to press B to jump, but it's actually A or the trigger button or something like that. So for the most part, though, it's I kind of look forward to that single player experience. And then just to comment on the content creation stuff, which I kind of forgot about, even though I've been doing it a lot more. That's kind of helping me with more of the story driven games, the single player games, because the way I'm doing it is I want to when I'm doing the streaming stuff, I want to do single player games instead of doing multiplayer like I'd kind of been doing in the past, even though it was kind of broken up. Like I'd do it for a couple weeks and then, I drop it for like months at a time. But now, this is kind of getting me to do those streams a little bit more frequently. And especially for the network too. I don't want like a 2 or 3 month break in between, my PlayStation sessions. So that's kind of driving me to do those single player experiences. And I'm breaking it up between a couple games, Ghost Recon, Wildlands, and Mad Max. So, and even then, I'm kind of debating maybe I shouldn't, break it up between two, single story games. But it's kind of fun, kind of doing it like that, because it kind of gives me a break between each game. So,
Yeah, I kind of get anxiety about that. So as you can probably tell by my line of questioning, I don't like to pull away, because when I jump back in, that happened to me with Breath of the Wild. I hadn't played it for like 2 months or 3 months. Then I jumped back in, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know where I was. Where am I going? And then I kind of had to putz around a little bit before I got my sea legs again and jump back in. But
I think it's hard but depending on what game it is. Like if it's a Mario game, it's probably not too bad. It's pretty basic. If you played one Mario game, well, 3D Mario game, you've kind of played them. But then if you like skipping between like RPGs and stuff like that, yeah, it can be kind of daunting.
Well,
yeah,
I can say,
and I'm actually envious, right, of you in that aspect, right? Because I just so there are a few external influences on me and what I play these days, but by and large, it's like. So, and I think I've admitted this. Like by and large, I randomize a lot because I kind of don't, because I specifically don't want to, like, I don't want to be the person who puts 40 hours into Forza Horizon 3, right? Because left to my own mechanics, that might be what I do. So I kind of, and that's what keeps me ping-ponging around between a lot of different games. And I go through exactly what you mean. I will pull up a game and I'll be embarrassed because the save file will be from like fall of 2017, right? And I constantly go through that re-ramp and reacclimation. But I envy you that ability to remain singularly focused on a thing, because because I know when I have done that, I know that I get more gaming enjoyment out of at least that thing. But the clock that's sticking in my head is always the anxiety about all the things that I'm not playing.
Well, that's where I was glad that you joined this particular podcast. Originally, Agastocles wasn't on the schedule, and then we had to, do a little bit of musical chairs. So because we have such varying games, me on this podcast, I'm like, dang, every time I come on, all I play is Horizon Zero Dawn. But I am enjoying the fact that I'm going through every side quest. I'm trying to nail down every single, cauldron and get blazing suns on all the training grounds and just experience the entirety of the game. So when I'm playing it, I don't regret it, but I feel like I'm short changing the the podcast. But that was actually going to lead me to my question for you is, when I'm finished with Horizon Zero Dawn, I'm almost done. And, when I played Ocarina of Time or Final Fantasy X, man, I put like 80 hours in that game twice because I wanted to get everything. And that was when I was in college. So that's why that was feasible. I come away with something, and I feel like I've experienced the game. The game's a part of me now. It's like I can go back and I reminisce about that game. I'm like, man, I remember the first time I played Final Fantasy X, and I remember playing Metal Gear Solid. I remember playing Ocarina of Time. But some of these games that I've experienced and I enjoyed, like I don't know how much I'm going to go back to Celeste. I'm hoping to get back to the game. I have a feeling I'm not because of my backlog. But 2 or 3 years from now, am I going to really remember that experience, even though it was a very positive one? So do you feel that, in the future, you're going to be like, should I have stopped and smelled the roses? Or I guess that's where my and your perspectives are different. So I envy you, though, because I'm seeing all these games. I just got The Last of Us remastered, and I'm like, I really hope I have a chance to play this game. I never played Red Dead Redemption. I got Red Dead Redemption 2. I can't say it, coming online. I'm like, man, I don't want to play that until I play the first one. And I just look at this vast landscape of games that I'm missing, and that's where I feel regret. So at least you touch on some of the games, but do you feel like you're shortchanging yourself?
Generally, no, because I guess so. So the games that, like I said, if I didn't randomize, right, if I just picked what I wanted to play, the games that I'm most concerned that I get some time in, I probably wind up getting that time in, right? And with every game, I feel like there's this magical number that it's representative of kind of my minimum ROI that I need to get out of a game's purchase. Now, there are games that I don't achieve that number, and those games bug me. Like we were talking about in chat today, I have Super Mario Odyssey because I felt obligated to buy it. But in the crush of holiday games last year and trying to prep for our our annual superlative show, that's a game I just didn't get a chance to put skin time. I didn't have time to put skin on. Now is that making me weep at night? No, but if I hadn't put time into, like last year I did put a huge chunk of time into Drive Club because I wanted to revisit that game, 2 years after it released, and I put time into that game, and that would have bugged me if I hadn't gotten to that. So it's varying degrees. I do sometimes lament I only played such and such game for a few hours or a couple hours. There are games that I really want to go back in my backlog and I really want to go back and put time on. What is the blasted name? Now I'm forgetting it.
Daikatana?
No, it's the how am I forgetting it? It's the ship-based RTS.
Elite Dangerous? Oh no,
No.
RTS.
No. Yeah. It starts with Dreadnought.
No, it's Home something. I don't know why I'm forgetting.
Homeworld? No, not Homeworld.
Yeah, Homeworld, right?
Oh, is that Homeworld?
I'm double checking just so. Yes,
Oh yeah, Dreadnought wasn't an RTS. You're right.
Yeah,
An action title.
Well, but that's another one that I played some of the beta in that I just haven't. It's a community game, and I've found time to get back to Destiny and Destiny 2 and play some multiplayer in that, but I haven't had time to get back to Dreadnought. But Homeworld, Homeworld Remastered. I played a little multiplayer in that, but I didn't spend time in it. And I do want to get around to Super Mario Odyssey, and I put a chunk of time into RMX, which is like the Wipeout clone. I hate to say that, but like the futuristic racing game on Nintendo Switch, which was so awesome and amazing, but I didn't spend as much time in it as I want. So I always have those things in the backlog. Things that I would really like to get around to. There's not a ton of I wish I'd stopped and smelled the roses because like I said, when that need for obsession strikes me, it strikes, right? So I plowed through original Destiny. Yes, I did it 2 years after the game came out, but I did it. Destiny 2 when it dropped. I dropped everything and played through Destiny 2 to get through the single player campaign, right? Actually at this point I think I've gone through it like 1.75 times or something like that with different characters. So those things will grab me and cause me to stop. And highly complex games, right? So there are certain flight sims that just like it's not worth it if you can't sit down and put 2 hours into it. And once I break out, a flight control system and connect it, then it's probably going to stay up for a full week. So those things kind of happen. Like I said, I envy people, but I guess as Prawn mentioned, as the years keep rolling on and I keep getting older and older, right? At a certain point, I admit what type of gamer I am, and I just live with it.
So Prime, you okay, we got PUBG that's designed, you compete and you get out. Do you feel that developers, like from the perspective of a developer, who would they rather capture? Would they rather capture the sampler type gamer, or do you think it's better to have the OCD type, completist type gamer? And do they try to capture both in their gameplay? Like when I see like Horizon Zero Dawn, you got your main quests and they're separated from side quests and what they call errands and what they call the tutorial quests. So there's a lot of optional stuff in there. I probably, if I wanted to, could just rip through the main quest, and I'm sure it's like that in Skyrim, whatever. There's a lot of games like that. Do you think that they're putting that in as a compromise, or is that an intentional thing to say we want to have as many people enjoy our game as possible?
Well, I guess it kind of depends on the game. Like something like PUBG, I don't know. It's kind of hard because I guess like every developer wants, obviously to have
right. They want the money, right?
Yeah, they want to have play games. But something like PUBG might benefit a little bit, and maybe more so Fortnite might benefit from the sampler, just because, like in Fortnite, you have these, and even PUBG to a certain extent, and Rocket League, you have these loot boxes that you can, well, I shouldn't say loot boxes. You have these boxes that you can get, and you don't have to open them if you don't want to. You can just keep playing the game, and it is aesthetic stuff that you get in it. But I think if you're playing the game kind of a short while, and you're like, oh hey, there's like recently on Rocket League they had the DC update DLC where you get like skins and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. I'll buy that really quick, and I don't have to play the game for like umpteen number of hours, and waste all this time. Well, not waste all this time, but have to do all this time. And that's kind of opposite of saying like Horizon Zero Dawn, where I think that the developers do make the game so you can kind of enjoy it and play it, because obviously they do have side missions and you can do all this other stuff. Maybe there's collection stuff. I don't know if there is in Horizon Zero Dawn or not. But say like Assassin's Creed, you have all these little idols and whatnot you can find in the game. So I think it really does depend on the type of game, on what they want out of the game.
This might be venturing too far, though, into another topic, but these side missions and these collections, is that really enhancing the experience, or is that just is it just filler content for somebody that might feel the need to the ego boost of collecting every last idol or whatever. I mean,
To be that completionist.
yeah, it's in the game, and I can understand why they're putting it in there. And but if you're there to tell a story, there's a part of me that says, look, if you don't want the player to explore or wander around or do the side quests, don't put it in the game. What there's like an engineering kind of dogma. It's like a design has not achieved perfection, not until there's not anything else to add, but only when there's nothing left to remove or something to that effect, right? So filling games with bloatware to cater to a specific type of gamer and adding extra content, maybe they should rethink that and just accept, like you guys are accepting to being a certain type of gamer. Maybe you should just say, look, this is the type of game, and if it's a 12-hour story experience, you're going to have the best 12-hour story experience you can, and we're not going to send you on a fetch quest to make sure that the child gets medicine for the person you just ran into outside of town.
Yeah, I think that like the hey, I have like 20 idols or 100 idols you can find, in the game, kind of came out of people kind of complaining that, oh hey, this is only a 6, 7, 8 hour game. Where's the content? So I think that's when they kind of started kind of coming about, where like almost every game had some kind of hey, like in GTA, find all these 20 pigeons or something kind of dumb like that. But it was just kind of filler. But I think they've kind of evolved it a little bit, and it's you do have that kind of missions, but then you do have the side missions where you can do like these other little obviously not crucial to the story, but I mean it's kind of something kind of fun. Say something like in Skyrim where you can well, Skyrim's actually kind of a different beast because you can actually play that game like forever basically, because they're always just generating stories or like side missions, and they're simple. Hey, go find this book or go kill this guy, but you can basically do it forever because it's kind of I guess it's not called procedural generated, but I forgot what it was called, how they said it, but they have that kind of side quests going through it. So I think it's kind of evolved a little bit better. Obviously, some games do it better than others, but I don't know. I guess, Cleese, what do you think? And sorry to ask you that right when you took a drink.
No, yeah.
I don't know if you play games like that.
Yeah.
I guess the important question is, are the developers like secretly laughing at the people that actually collect 20 pigeons across GTA 5 or whatever it was, or I can see how the Skyrim developers are like, you know what, we're going to put this cool system in. Our world is going to be a living, breathing world where there will always be things for the hero to accomplish. And a little bit that drives it, but I don't know. I'm just trying to think about, like, I was just curious how a developer might view the different types of gamers. Is just like, I guess they're just always viewing us as money bags. But
well, I think I think the developers acknowledge, the creative directors, I think maybe more so, acknowledge that there are going to be different demographics of consumers who buy the game. Right, there are going to be the people who buy the game, they stick with it for 8 to 20 hours, and then they move on. There are going to be people who buy the game and mainline through the single-player campaign and don't get distracted. And so an experience needs to be built for them. Then there are going to be people who maybe they buy, and my gut is telling me that these demographics are split up into types of gamers based on the number of games that they buy per year. Because I seem to see that statistic fairly frequently. And so if I talk about it that way, right, there's the people who buy Call of Duty and every year's version of Madden, and that's pretty much it, unless something strikes a particular chord, a couple times a year. There are going to be the people who buy predominantly open world games, and maybe they buy 3 to 6 per year. And those are the people who I think they may never complete the main storyline, but they're going to do a ton of side missions. Then there are going to be the people, and I think there's a strong desire to retain these people as well, they're going to be the people who actively participate in a community and have a voice and engage and interact with the company on a higher level, and perpetuate other people coming into the community and buying the game. But sometimes I think those are the gamers that you don't like. You know that you need those gamers, but sometimes they are the types of gamers that you don't want. And by that I mean your Destiny 2 crowd, right? There are people, I don't understand these people, but there are people who bought that game and they are putting 40 hours per week into that game. They are living in it. They are part of the community. And when they get bent out of shape because, after an hour, the rate of XP that they earn slows down, right, then that has to be addressed. But I've always felt that Swiss, like you're the type of gamer that developers want to court more than anything, and that's the people who get into a game and stick with it for an extended period of time and put a bunch of hours into it. At the end of the day, that's kind of who they're building that whole experience for. And what those gamers are doing, what you're doing is they're testing the different systems in the game so that when they go to build the sequel, that's the data that they look at, right? Hey, these people, only 5% of the people who played the game collected all 20 idols, right? But the vast majority only collected 3. So that informs, how much level of effort is going to go into that subsystem in the next version of the game that they build.
You took that in a direction that I wasn't thinking about, which I probably was naive not to think about, which is, user data. But, it's 2018.
Always thinking about the numbers.
Yeah.
He's always thinking about the numbers.
No, I just, sometimes I feel like, do you guys remember Calvin and Hobbes, the comic strip? So Bill Watterson, he wrote this brilliant comic, and I read it all the time when I was a kid, and I love it. But he only did it for 10 years, and then he finished his 10 years out, and he's like, you know what? I have no more artistic juice for this, and he stopped at the top. He never let anybody kind of monetize it. So, you see Peanuts everywhere. They're on greeting cards, they're on T-shirts, the TV specials. You can't get Calvin Hobbes like plush. Can't do anything. He didn't want his vision of the art degraded or violated or somehow diluted with consumerism. And I always kind of wonder when I'm playing these games if there's a tension between the developer, the artist side of the developer, and the business side of the company, because I enjoy the fact that there's all this extra content in Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't like the fact that some of this content is just preying on my OCD and was just thrown in there to see, well, how can we artificially extend his attention span? But I obviously, they're going to want to do as much as they can to keep eyeballs on. So I don't know. I feel like with a better example, I think, is Wolfenstein 2, where I was in there and I was playing it and I was having a blast with the game, but then I'd find these little pictures, and then I kept trying, like, before I'd exit a level, I started looking around for these stupid pictures, and I'm like, why'd they stick this in there? And why am I even trying to do it again? It's because when I go to the stupid menu and it shows me you've only found 2 of 13 pictures, it's annoying me. So I don't like being manipulated, I guess, is what it boils down to. And
but I think that's,
it's part of it. I get it. I understand the reasoning, and I understand I need to grow up and not worry that a game says 2 out of 13 and it somehow impacts my character. But it's still
and I want to extend it a little bit further. Like it's not just part of it as far as like it's part of it at an extreme level. Like every major publisher and most of the development studios have like a behavioral scientist on staff who is studying this stuff and understands. I mean, this is part of one of the reasons why I get so offended by the loot boxes. I mean, that's grown out of scientific study that proves what things cause people to lean towards addictive behaviors. And some of it, it's varying degrees, right? Some of it is just like wanting to understand literally what is fun to people to try and make an enjoyable game for them. Some of it is outright malicious in terms of, what things can we do to make people spend money. And it covers the spectrum. But I mean, it's an inherent part of the design science of video games that, studios, the studios that can afford it and the publishers like I said, they're keeping people on staff who understand the science of this and understand, are studying what it takes to keep people engaged and immersed in the various titles.
So Prime, as Gassigali just mentioned, like they're studying what is fun. Have any of us really said? I mean, I guess we have to a certain extent. We play games this way because that's the way we find the most enjoyment out of them. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that we haven't really just been like, I like playing games like this because it's awesome and that's how I enjoy the game. So I feel a little disheartened tonight. Can you improve my mood any?
I don't know if I can prove
or is it just like, wake up, it's life, be happy for what you have?
No, I mean, I think we've all chosen, the way we've playing games. Actually, well, I guess all through our lives, but we've chosen it just because that's. I guess there's some external, obviously there's some external factors that come into play, but I think we basically chosen the lives that we're doing with our games just because it is fun to us. Yeah, there is sometimes where when I did used to kind of play like you actually, where I would just play one game, I'd play through the single player game, and I'd have to play that whole game until I beat it. It was something within me. Not until this past year where I was finally like, you know what, I'm gonna stop doing that. I'm just gonna, because it started to feel like work. Because back, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. I think this was back on the Band of Gamers podcast when I started doing the all right, I'm gonna go back, into my backlog. I'm gonna start, beating games, one after another, and finish them. 3 or 4 years later, I think I got through maybe 6 games like altogether through those 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years, whatever it was. And I just got to that point where I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna stop worrying about all this stuff and just play the games, so I can have fun. And I'm not saying the way you're doing it's not fun for you. I mean, that if you want to do like that, that's fine. But like I said, it just changes, between the three of us. And, if I think you do kind of get to that point where it's like, you know what, why am I even, playing, why am I playing this game or playing that game? And sometimes I get like that. Like I get kind of exhausted almost or overloaded with the games I'm playing. And I'll just like, all right, I'll stop playing everything that I'm playing currently. And I'll just start flipping through my game library until I see something that literally like jumps out at me, and I was like, oh, I want to play this game, or I haven't played this game in a long time. I just start doing stuff like that. So I don't know if you guys ever get like that, where it's just like to a point where I want to say get bored with what you're playing, but you just kind of get like, I don't want to play this anymore. And, I don't want to play anything I'm playing right now. I just want to play, something totally different, something totally separate than what I'm doing right now.
So I don't, because I randomize, right? I mean, that's part of it. I mean, so there's that, but also like, and I guess I'm sort of this way with a lot of different things, right? Like I will admit it, I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to content, and especially content that doesn't take up room, right? Like there is no logistics cost or expense to buying another game on Steam, right? Now I've peeled that back a little bit, right, over the last few years, but like there's no cost to that, and I'm very much a rainy day collector, right? Like I know that there are going to be days when I'm sick, there are going to be days when it's bad weather, there are going to be days when I'm injured, right? And I kind of consistently keep things around that I haven't consumed yet for those times, or like you said, Prime, when I'm bored, and so and I'm not saying that that's right, but I'm saying that's what I do, and it's kind of cool when you do dip into your backlog and you go, oh, I had that thing, right? I only played that for a couple hours, but I thought it was really great. Or I never got around to playing that, or I played that for 40 hours and I'd really like to go back to it. So I don't know. I think there's
that you mentioning that has triggered something in me. So, the rainy day game, that concept. A lot of people when they go on vacation, they'll come up and they'll plan it out, and they're like, we're going to do this on this day, and we're going to spend 4 hours here, and then we're going to go here, we're going to eat lunch, blah, blah, blah. And the actual planning of the vacation is actually more enjoyable to them when they actually get on the vacation. And then it becomes, like Prime said, it almost becomes work, because then you're just a slave to the schedule, so to speak. Do you guys feel that going on Steam or just walking into a GameStop is more enjoyable sometimes than actually experiencing the games, the anticipation of the game, and putting it on my shelf and looking over here and seeing all my PS4 games lined up nicely, even though I haven't played 80% of them, or looking in my Steam library and being like, wow, I bought those games and I'm super excited to play them, but it's not going to be right, today. Is that anticipation like a good thing, or is that just show that we're impulsive? Nobody has an opinion. We're just contemplating our life choices now.
I do. I was yielding the floor to Prime first.
Sorry. I thought I was unmuted. Well, for me, I think it's a little different because I'm pretty much all digital now. So, well, I guess you mentioned Steam too, so and it kind of goes with it. But I guess it kind of goes with the attitude of how I'm I don't really care what I'm playing now. It kind of goes with the same thing with when I'm buying a game. For the most part, if I see something, I'll buy it pretty much on the spot. But and it wasn't too bad. But when the Switch came along, now it's like, oh man, there's so many games now that I can play, and I had to like, all right, I got to step back, and I can't just be buying everything, even though most of the stuff's cheap, even on the Switch store or in the eShop. They have sales and stuff, so it's like, oh man, I've seen Stardew Valley now go on sale. I don't know how many times. It's like I had to stop myself from buying that game because it's just I can't get another game, especially something like that where it's like involved. You gotta take care of stuff, and you're doing farm. I mean, it might be boring to some people because it's like farming and stuff, but I kind of like that stuff now. But yeah, I guess I've just been trying to limit myself now, and yeah, I guess like I said, I don't have a problem with it too much anymore.
Gasicles?
Yeah, and for me, it doesn't. No, not really. I mean, maybe when I purchase things physically, and I still do some physical sales. I'm doing more this year because I wanted to capitalize on the fact that basically many stores are paying us to buy physical copies versus digital copies. So
yeah,
I'm
same here.
Yeah, so I joined Gamers Club. What is it? Gamers Club Unlocked at Best Buy.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, so but I literally keep those games like in a plastic tub. So unless I open it to physically look at them, I don't know what's in there. So that doesn't really do anything for me. For me, I will say game purchases of new stuff. It's really the only thing that encourages me, or I don't know. I would call it impulsive, but it's methodical, right? It's just in that I want to. I do. I don't want to say it's entirely about, but it has a lot to do with us getting to the end of the year, and this has always been the case, right? Even before E2KG, I have felt bad years when I would like flip open like PC Gamer and read the Game of the Year articles or Game Informer or Game Pro back when it was around. And like looked, and I've had years, right, when when I was in the military and I was deployed or whatever, and I've looked down the list and I'm like, I haven't played any of these games, right, or I've only played 3 of these games. And then I had years where I'm like, I've played 90% of these games, and like I agree with these rankings or whatever, or I don't, or this game, I feel like this game would have been higher. So that's the only piece of it that kind of still kind of sticks with me. I do want to traverse through a number of games that are going to be part of that end of the year discussion, whether it's on E2, KG, or whatever. But that's the same thing about everything that I do, right? Like I write about this stuff, and I want to make sure that I experience and consume enough of it that I'm informed, so that I'm not, some guy saying that this phone is the best when I haven't, touched any other phones right at the end of the year.
So I just wanted to make a comment here, because I kind of forgot about something, which is strange because I talk about it almost every podcast. So there was an X factor here though this past year, in which it was a Switch, the Nintendo Switch, in which kind of changed. I wouldn't say changed the way I play games, but it expanded my gameplay, because obviously it's portable. You can take it out of the dock and play it handheld mode. So that has given me a little bit of extra time that I can actually play games now, because I think I've mentioned this, like if my wife wants to watch something, if wants to watch something on TV, a movie or whatever that maybe I'm not super interested in, go ahead, pop open the Switch, and I can start playing that. So I get more game time. And once again, though, even on that system, I'm playing pretty much Rocket League's my go-to game on that one, my kind of standard. And then I'll play something else, like I'm playing Mario Odyssey now. So that has extended my gameplay time at least a little bit more than has in the past, since I have that portability and I don't have it, tied to the main TV in my living room.
Yeah, I think it's changed how my family consumes games. I definitely think there's a preference for using the Switch over the conventional consoles. So yeah, I can definitely understand that. Does anybody? I think we're coming up on an hour here. Has anybody have any last comments on the subject? Gastacles, you got any plugs then for the upcoming E2KG schedule?
I thought you were going to let me. I thought you were going to hold that pause a little longer. Let me get around my plugs.
I think he's trying to get the schedule up.
Yeah. No, not the schedule. So the thing I was going to mention was please check out the E2KG network channel on YouTube. We are posting additional content these days. So there's a very small but dedicated stream team now that is posting additional content. So I played on you all's behalf of the viewers and the other cast members. I took one for the team, I would say, and played a little bit of Beyond Two Souls on the PlayStation 4. And that content is posted on our channel. Prime, and I apologize, Prime, I blame this on YouTube, not on myself, because like the new YouTube redesign, only like you could literally only see like 3 stinking videos on the main page. Prime played a little bit of Ghost Recon Wildlands, specifically targeting some play with drones, and that content is up. And we'll be posting maybe 2 to 3 gaming videos in and amongst our podcasts each week from now on. But I would say definitely check those out if you're interested. Ghost Recon Wildlands is kind of a comeback game. It's kind of coming around for the second time, which I would say Ubisoft is also perfecting that. Right? So they've gotten really good at the open world game. Somehow they are figuring out this reattack with games after they've been released and haven't done that well or have burned out very quickly. They did that with The Division, and they're doing it now again with Ghost Recon. So definitely check out Prime's video. And also, if you are interested in Detroit Become Human, which drops at the end of this month, right before Memorial Day weekend, and you want to see some gameplay of Beyond Two Souls without putting in your own labor on that, and it is a bit laborious, please go ahead and check out my video that's up on the network as well. And like I said, we'll be bringing 2 or 3 gaming videos to you each week in and amongst our podcasts.
All right. I think we're ready to sign off. So on behalf of my friends Prime and Agastocles, thank you all for listening, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good night.